Hi, welcome to our new vocabulary lesson. It's going to focus on word formation and how it will help you learn vocabulary. Here are the points we are going to try to cover together. First, we'll have a look at how does word formation help in learning vocabulary in brief. And then we'll go to parts of speech, look at root words, analyze some affixes, and have a look at compound nouns. How does word formation help in vocabulary learning? Morphological analysis of lexical units in terms of processes of word formation is a skill a learner needs actually in order to make use of affixation. Breaking a new word into parts so that the affixes and the root or the roots are revealed, knowing the meanings of the parts and being able to connect the meaning of the parts with the meaning of the word. Parts of speech show or illustrate a very important aspect of word formation, and there are 8 different types of parts of speech in English language. You need to know them so that you can depict them in any context, whether reading context or when you hear them, or obviously you will need them as well while you speak. The 8 parts of speech are nouns. The basic function of nouns is to name a person, to name a place, or to name something. For example, a pirate, a ship. Pronouns, they take the place of nouns. They replace nouns. For example, I, you, he, she, they. Verbs, completely different because they have a different basic function. Verbs identify actions or state of being. For example, sing, dance, believe, those are actions. To be is a verb identifying a state of being. Adjectives modify nouns, like hot, lazy, funny. Hot water. Water is a noun, naming something. Hot is an adjective, modifying the noun water. Adverbs modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. For example, softly, lazily, often. Another part of speech is prepositions, and they are very, very important. They show a relationship between a noun or a pronoun and other words in a sentence. Example of prepositions, you have up, over, against, by, for. Conjunctions join words, phrases, and clauses. That's what you need when it comes to writing compound sentences. For example, and, but, yet, so. Interjection expresses emotion, and it's more related to spoken language than to written style. For example, oops. These are the main parts of speech in the English language. Let's move on to a little practice. To know for sure what part of speech a word is, we have to look not only at the word itself, but also at its meaning, position, and use in a sentence. For example, in the first sentence below, work, the word work, functions as a noun, whereas in the second sentence, it functions as a verb, the same word, work, whereas in the third sentence, it functions as an adjective. And it's again the same word. Sentence 1. John showed up for work 2 hours late. The noun, work, is the thing John shows up for. So it's obviously a noun here. Second sentence, he will have to work until midnight. The verb work is the action he must perform until midnight. And the third sentence is, his work permit expires next month. The attributive noun, work, modifies the noun permit, therefore it does the job of an adjective. It functions as an adjective in this sentence. We move now to root words. An understanding of root words is particularly helpful to ESL students in terms of word recognition and phrase comprehension. Fun online root word games are perfect for learning root words. And I included here the URL, a link to the URL of the website. One of the websites, there are plenty of these websites online, this one is a perfect one, full of games, interactive ones that help you identify and locate the root word. Try it, you will enjoy it. Let's have a look at an example. Failing is a word that can be split into two. The first part is fail. We could also identify a second part, that is ing. This means in failing, there is no prefix, nothing preceded the word, but the common suffix ing comes after the word fail. After stripping the suffix, the root word fail is uncovered. So obviously, the root word here is the verb to fail. How can we identify the root word? Identifying the root word or the root of a word can lead to a better understanding of how the word is best used. Because there are many words in the English language with overlapping meanings. The root of a word can be used to determine which word best applies to a particular context. This process of identifying root words has more to do with stripping away additional word elements than directly locating the root. This is because there are so many more possible roots than there are extra word elements like prefixes and suffixes. We can have a limited list of suffixes, a limited list of prefixes. Therefore, we start with what's limited, with what we know more, to try to identify the root which sometimes we don't know. The steps. First, identify any prefixes, words preceding, words starting the word, coming at the beginning of the word. 2, identify any suffixes, words or letters that come at the end after the word. And then rewrite the word without prefixes and suffixes. The result should be the word root you are looking for. And you can check whether it makes sense or not. Research the root word to identify its proper use. We'll now go in some details to help you know what are prefixes, or what are the most common prefixes, and what are the most common suffixes. One common name for those two is affixes. And an affix in English is defined as a morpheme that's attached to a word stem. We mean by stem here a word root, to form a new word. So the role of affixes is to help you form a new word out of the root. Speakers use affixes to form different new words. These affixes are prefixes and suffixes. Where can we find the prefixes? We already said they are placed before the words to modify their meanings. Like suffixes, they are groups of letters that rarely serve a purpose unless attached to a word. The prefixes rarely have meaning in themselves. They get the meaning from being attached to a word. So they get the meaning and they give the meaning to the word. Here is a list of commonly used prefixes to give you an idea of how to identify them. In the first column, we have examples of prefixes. In the second column, their meanings. And let's go through them. One common thing for these prefixes is that they are all negative prefixes. This is very common in your textbooks and in frequent context that you see. The first one is un, which means not, opposite of. Second one is ing, and it has different spellings according to the word that comes later. It's either in with in or m with im. It might be er with ir, like irresponsible, or ill with il, like illegal, illegitimate. And it also means not. We also have another form of these negative prefixes, which is miss. And miss here doesn't exactly mean not, it rather means it was wrong, or you wrongly got it, you wrongly did it. Misbehave. You behaved in a wrong way, you behaved wrongly. Mislead. You led me to a different path. In or im have also another meaning according to the word they are attached to. For example, include. It means put in, get something in, a list, for example. This item is included in the list. It means that it is in the list. We also have n or in with en or em, which means cause to. An example of this kind of prefix is enlarge, cause to become large. Enrich, cause to become richer or rich. Enable, help someone become able to do something or cause him to become able to do something. We also have re, which is very, very common and repetitive, and it means repetition, again, redo something. Dis, not, or the opposite of. Agree, disagree. Agree is the root, dis is the prefix, disagree is a completely different meaning. It's the opposite meaning. None, not, non-native speaker. It's exactly the opposite. He's not a native speaker. Over, too much. Overeat, eating too much. And sub, under, subcategories, categories that fit under this category. Subtitles, titles that fit under this big title, for example. Here we have a different kind of prefixes which are common and of which you have a lot in your grade 11 curriculum, especially in Unit 1. For example, you have aqua, which means water. Examples of words made up of this prefix: aquarium, which is an artificial environment for water plants and animals. Aquatic, plant or animal living in water. We also have art, which means skill. It makes up the word artistic, which means natural skill in art. Artisan, a skilled manual work. Auto, self, automatic, working by yourself. Autonomous, having self-government, self-management, self-reliance. Bi, which means two or twice. Biannual, occurring twice in a year. It's a biannual event. Bigamy, being married twice. Bio, life. The most famous example is biology, which means the study of living things. And inter, which means between. Like interconnect, connect with each other. Interdepend, depend on each other. There is an interdependence between a wife and a husband, for example. They both depend on each other in different fields. Let's move on now to the second affix, that is suffix. Suffixes are actually placed afterwards, at the end, to modify their meanings. Like prefixes, they are groups of letters that rarely serve a purpose unless attached to a word. Let's have a look at an example. Estimate is the root word. Now we know what a root means. Plus tion, which is a suffix, gives us estimation. We started with the root, which is a verb. We added the suffix. We ended up with a noun. Here is a list of some of them, some of the suffixes, to give you an idea of how to identify them. And again, I've chosen the most common ones. Able, or sometimes spelled with I, able. Capable of, that's the meaning of the suffix. Example, portable, a portable device, a portable computer. Legible. Legible means something that's readable, something that we can read. AC or IC, it means like or related to, like cardiac, a cardiac attack. Nordic, coming from the north, related to the north. ACY, which means the state, the quality of being, like privacy, the state of being private or quality of being private. Legitimacy, the state or quality of being legitimate. Acious, or sometimes spelled icious, full of, like gracious, full of grace. Malicious, full of malice. Al, or AL, which also means related to. For example, logical, something related to logic. philosophical, something related to philosophy. Ance, A-N-C-E, sometimes spelled with an E. Again, state or quality of being. Maintenance, the quality of being maintained. Permanence. Dom, or D-O-M, again, the state or quality of being, which is used in the word, the very famous word, freedom or kingdom. It's the state of being free or the state of being a king, belonging to a kingdom. We then have ear, double E-R, or just one single E-R, or sometimes spelled O-R, which means or refers to the person who did something, did an action. For example, mountaineer, it takes double E-R, the person who climbs mountains. Writer, it's only one E-R, person who writes. A counselor, an advisor. Phi or E-phi sometimes, to make, magnify, electrify. And eyes or ISE, again to make or to become, like civilize, terrorize. And these last two, they are related to verbs. They end up in verbs, they give us verbs. We have a few others here. Ish, having qualities of, like hellish, friendish. Ism, something that relates to belief or practice, like communism. Ist, a person who does something, like a chemist, coming from chemistry. Florist, related to flowers. Less, which is a negative prefix, meaning without. Brainless, without a brain. Endless, without any end. MENT, meant, which gives nouns like enjoyment. Ness, nouns like thinness, loneliness. OUS, which gives us adjectives. Full of, illustrious, noisious. Ship, like in friendship. Membership, position of being a member. And shin, either spelled S-I-O-N or T-I-O-N, which means the state or quality of being, and we find it in lots of nouns like transition, torsion. And the Y, which means characterized by, like funny, greedy. Here is a strategy that might help you remember the affixes you learn and find out the root easily. This strategy is called vocabulary frames. These are flashcards that are designed by the learner, by you obviously, in order to learn vocabulary. Don't use vocabulary frames for every vocabulary word encountered. Words that introduce new concepts are best used with vocabulary frames. Why? Because concepts are usually hard to understand and hard to keep in mind, especially for non-native speakers. So here's an example. This is the flashcard. It has 4 different parts, and we have something in, or 4 different corners, and we have something in the center here. The target word comes in the center. You write it. The word is prediction. Then you split it into different parts. Try to identify the prefix, like pre here, the suffix, like ion here. So once you identify the prefix and the suffix, the remaining part in the middle is obviously the root of the word, like here, dict, which means speak. And its part of speech is a noun. It's nice to include the part of speech here because it reminds you of all the different skills that you need. Now, at the top right corner of the flashcard, you can write the word's definition. Top left corner, you write the word's opposite and then cross it out in order to know that that's not the word we mean or we need. Lower left corner, write a silly sentence that uses the definition of the word. Why silly? Because it's more memorable. When it's something that is a bit fun, you can keep it in mind in a better way. Lower right corner, just draw a graphic to help you visualize the concept in the center. Remember, isolate any prefixes, isolate the root, note the meaning of the root, isolate any suffixes, and label the part of speech in parentheses. The last thing related now to word formation that we are going to talk about is compound nouns. And they are word combinations within a sentence. Sometimes, nouns are used to specify nouns. For example, shop assistant. Shop is a noun here that specifies the word assistant. It functions as an adjective, but it's actually a noun. So shop assistant is a compound noun. School rules. Business policy, top management. You can now find your own examples from your readings. That's the end of our lesson. Thank you for your attention and see you in the next lesson.